Hey gang, hello, hello. How's everybody doing? Let me just see if I can. That will not do. I see we've got a quorum already. There we go. Jamal, you're the first name that I saw. And Tom Rogers. Looks like you guys beat TC again. She's not gonna like that. Hey, the provocative caption on this Facebook Live about whether businesses have an obligation to support Black Lives Matter has nothing to do with this couple. But I wanted to show you this first because this is Stephen and Zara Wilcox and their baby Vernice. And on CNN today, I am going to try and rattle the cage of the State Department and get them home from Ghana. The Wilcoxes have adopted baby Vernice, and because of COVID-19 and what seems to me like bureaucratic ineptitude, they've been trapped in Ghana for the last 10 or 12 weeks, and they want to come home. They're from the Philly area. It's a remarkable story, and one that I will do in the course of the program today. Bottom line is that after Vernice was born, they always knew that they would need a birth certificate and then a passport. But what they didn't count on was that they would also be requested to provide a DNA test. And the DNA test can't be obtained because, you guessed it, all the labs are preoccupied with COVID-19. So I'm convinced that if we could get the attention of the State Department, they would be able to come home to the United States. And so we'll do a little human interest story today on the program, and I'm really looking forward to it. Those of you who are radio listeners, POTUS listeners, and by the way, why aren't all of you, heard my conversation with Dr. Wilcox yesterday. So I'm eager to put him on television and give that story. I mean, CNN has, this program of mine has an international audience. So I want to take advantage of it today and do some good, okay? Now, about that provocative headline on my Facebook Live that you're tuned into, is there an obligation on the part of businesses to embrace Black Lives Matter? And I'm asking this question, of course, first and foremost because of Starbucks and what went on with Starbucks this week, where initially they said, hey, we don't want any of, and we remembered the word, didn't we? We don't want any of the flair, if you remember the Jennifer Aniston movie. We don't want any of the flair to have a Black Lives Matter message or any other political message because we have a policy that bans accessories of a political, religious, or personal nature. And then some cried foul and they said, well, wait a minute, you, Starbucks, have completely embraced the LGBTQ movement. So if you're willing to get involved in LGBTQ, why aren't you willing to get involved in Black Lives Matter? And then Starbucks, after there was a trending hashtag of boycott Starbucks, did an about face. And now they said, well, we're going to make I'm paraphrasing and simplifying. We're going to make an exception for Black Lives Matter. In fact, we're going to give you a T-shirt for Black Lives Matter just because we want to show solidarity. The point is this: pressure is being brought to bear on a whole host of businesses. You heard me perhaps tell the story yesterday of a friend of mine who has a small business. I'm not going to identify him nor the nature of the business, but 20 to 30 employees, and a few of the employees came to him and said, what are we going to do? What are we going to say about Black Lives Matter? And his answer essentially was, we're in the widget making business. You know, why would we want to take sides on any political issue? And of course, many of you I know are thinking, what happens if someone shows up at, and I am not equating Black Lives Matter with a particular political campaign. I just want to make the speech point. What if someone wants to work at Starbucks with a MAGA hat? You know, at what point does it run contrary to business generally to be politically involved? That's the issue that I want to drill down on. I have an opening commentary on CNN today, and that'll be what I frame. Here's an interesting one. It's not just Starbucks. I mentioned this on radio, but it'll be nice. It'll be nice to be able to. It'll be nice to be able to show it on television. Hang on, I've just got to cross something out on it. Somebody's email address that I don't want you to see. Okay, so this, you remember what we called these in school? This, ladies and gentlemen, is a Venn diagram. So you see the overlapping circles. Outraged by George Floyd's death, does not condone looting and rioting, supports good police officers. And then in the middle, they have written me. And you see the tag at the top, believe it or not, it's okay to be all three. You can be outraged by George Floyd's death, not condoning looting and rioting, and supportive of good police officers. So this, ladies and gentlemen, was found to be objectionable instantly with people who said, you are equating Black Lives Matter with All Lives Matter. You're marginalizing Black Lives Matter. I bring it up because it's just an example of how difficult it is to resolve some of these issues. By the way, you may think, no, Michael, it's not difficult at all. This is objectionable, or this is not objectionable. I can already see, just as many of your comments are flashing by, you're already in disagreement as to whether Black Lives Matter is a political movement. I'm not going to resolve that dispute right here, right now. I'm simply trying to frame the issue of how difficult it is for businesses to be the arbiters of what is fair speech and whether they should be involved in any of this. So in the case of Moda Skates, which is a Michigan-based roller skate manufacturer, they apologized. They apologized and said that this Venn diagram was totally inappropriate. Last week, hey, did I just see my friend Lisa DiPaolo fly by here? Hello, Lisa. Hope you're well. Call me. Sorry, I digress. So my point is that last week I did an opening commentary where I talked about individuals getting themselves in trouble. My best example is Ellen DeGeneres, who, my impression of Ellen DeGeneres is that she's got a big heart and that it's in the right place. She tweets out a message about peace, love, and understanding, and people go batshit over it. And they say, well, it was milquetoast, it was this, that, and she has to issue a tearful apology. And my big picture concern is that when we are so harsh with some people are dirtbags who deserve what's coming to them. Like the guy in New Jersey who put his knee on his buddy's neck when a Black Lives Matter movement was moving down the street. That's twisted, that's sick, that's not what I'm talking about. But I am talking about Ellen DeGeneres. I am talking about Drew Brees. And I'm saying that when the folks who run social media, when they smack down an Ellen DeGeneres, they are causing a lot of other people to say, I'm staying out of it. I'm not getting involved in this conversation. There's no upside for it. So I worry when people sit out the conversation because then nothing will change. Then we're going to have an artificial conversation. Then you aren't going to hear alternative points of view represented. That's bad for everybody. We can do this. This week I want to move on and I want to talk not about individuals but about businesses. So what is a business supposed to do? Should the hardware store have a sign in the window? Are you going to demand when we can go back to, ladies, a nail salon, that they somehow take a stand on Black Lives Matter? Is this really what we want to do? So I love the issue. I have Don Peebles joining me. He is one of the most successful African-American businessmen in the nation, according to Forbes. Makes their top 10 list, and he will be my guest, and we will have that dialogue. In terms of other difficult conversations to have, ready for this one? Is the N-word ever appropriate? And now you're already saying, no. In academia, is the N-word ever appropriately used in an academic setting? There have been several instances recently, and at some extremely well-known, the most preeminent universities in the country. There have been instances where, for a variety of reasons, faculty members have said the N-word and have been reprimanded for it. I have a very well-credentialed, very widely published African-American Harvard law professor by the name of Randall Kennedy, who will be on the program today to make the case that it must be said that there are circumstances where the N-word, I hope he doesn't say it on CNN today. I hope my show is not one of the circumstances where he thinks it must be said. Then I'll have a problem. But in an academic setting, for what he describes as pedagogical reasons, the word must be said. And he will make that case on my program today. So I'm looking forward to that conversation as well. Joe Nocera is a great writer. Used to be at the Times. Now he's at Bloomberg. Joe says we must open the schools in full this fall. And that the reason we must do so is that the risk of death, the fatality rate of those under 19 to COVID-19 is a Blutarski. It is a 0.0. Now, I know that begs the question of, well, what about the bus driver? What about the cafeteria worker? What about the teacher? What exactly do we do to protect them? He will make that case. So, business responsibility, it's the survey question at Smerconish.com. Already we've posted it. Do businesses have an obligation to weigh in on Black Lives Matter? Is that how we worded it? Let me just be sure. Yeah, an obligation to support Black Lives Matter. That is the survey question. Don Peebles, who is a African-American Forbes-listed businessman, will discuss with me what's the business responsibility. Joe Nocera on whether the schools need to open in full in the fall. Professor Randall Kennedy defending his view that the N-word in certain academic settings is necessary. And the couple from Philly, now trapped in Ghana, the Wilcoxes, who want to get home with baby Vernice, but the State Department is just, my word, not theirs, inept in its handling of their situation, demanding a DNA test of their baby at a time when the labs are all closed for business other than COVID-19. That's a pretty good show, wouldn't you say? I'm in studio in Philly. This morning, I drove the streets. I was early, and I hadn't been in town since last week. And you know that there was a lot of unrest in Philadelphia this week. So I drove the streets in Center City that I know like the back of my hand, that I used to walk each and every day when for 10 years I lived in Center City, Philadelphia. And I could not believe what I saw in terms of boarded up businesses. So I circled the block again, and the blocks, for those of you who are in this area, I was on Walnut Street, east of Rittenhouse Square. So this is some of the preeminent retail in the city, or at least it used to be. Take a look at my Instagram account. It'll upset you, I think, if you know the area. These are tough times, as Cardinal Dolan would say. So, all right. Fabrizio, the streets of Philadelphia. Hello, Fabrizio. Cheryl Bennett Ashcraft. No, they don't have to support anyone. Mark Freeman, how's the garden? Spectacular. Take a look at my Instagram account. I'll have another report this weekend. Dave Wright, Florida, a hotspot for coronavirus. Yeah, a lot of places are now on the rise, and Florida is among them. And what I'm mindful of is that many of the states that are seemingly spiking, although Dr. Fauci didn't want to use that word last night, are warm. Arizona, California, Florida. Greg says every business should be BLM. Every business should be BLM. So, look, that's a perspective. I mean, I see this trend continuing where the demand will be made of major businesses and small businesses where they say, we want to know your position on Black Lives Matter. Hi, Kate, you're in San Diego. Mark, Vernice, your mom's name. Maybe she's named after your mom. How are TC's tomatoes, says Kathy Lee Tricala. They're horrible. They're stunted in their growth. And the reason is that she has choked them with mulch. I told her not to. But TC's, I'm just going to say this because we're all friends here and you know her from the radio show. She's an incredibly hard worker. With one major exception, she refuses to weed. And if you won't weed your garden's going to look like hell. In her case, what she tried to do was, and she can defend herself right here, but what she tried to do was to overcome the need for weeding by mulching a vegetable garden. Nobody mulches a vegetable garden. She's got to till the soil, get on her knees, and weed. And until that happens, there'll be no growth. There will be. Chauncey Gardner said there will be growth in the spring. There is growth for my garden, not for hers. I have pictures to prove it, by the way. Yeah, hashtag sad tomatoes, says Peter Cipriano. Yes. Growing pumpkins in Chester County. Good for you. Yeah. Well, what's your defense, TC? People want to know. Put up the pictures. The pictures don't lie. Hey, gang, I need to powder my noggin. Yeah, Tom Rogers, free the tomatoes. I love that. Try succulents. Last time I saw that word, I thought somebody was trying to get me to grow pigs. So, good morning, Omaha, Nebraska. Yeah, mulching a veggie garden, WTF. I agree with you. I totally agree. Right, so Georgia says, if you endorse Black Lives Matter, are you now agreeing to everything that they should announce, everything that they should come out for? I just think that it sets a precedent. How about this? And I know I'm understanding of some of you who will say, well, Black Lives Matter is not a political movement, it's a social movement, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, I get that. But sticking with the speech theme, what about when it's the fall? And now the stakes are high for the political campaign. What about when someone says to a business person, I want to know if you're for Donald Trump? I can't give you business unless I know, are you for or against the president's reelection? I want you to put a sign in your shop window for Joe Biden. Or I want you to put a sign in your window that says, Make America Great Again. I mean, where does that lead? You know, where does it lead? And if it's not just businesses, what about residential areas? I mean, how far are we away in the climate of polarization from someone knocking on your door and saying, I'm with the such and such organization, and here's a sign that we'd like you to put in your front yard, and we're keeping track of people who do and people who don't. Yes, Dave, I know Black Lives Matter is not political. You're all arguing about, is it political? I'm raising a speech issue. Whatever you think it is, the point is it fair to demand of a business or a person that they take a public stance? If you don't want to call it a political cause, but a social cause, fine. Okay, I'll concede that. Then do you want to force them to take a position on a social cause or a social movement? Now answer that, but then answer my question. Just saying. And my big concern is those who we'd like to have in this conversation who are just going to run for cover. Like, I don't want to be a part of this. There's no upside. All I'm going to do is piss somebody off somewhere. I'll sit it out. What time do I go on the air? No one's business how I vote, period, says Sharon. Yeah. All right, I'm multitasking. How do I look? Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being tuned in. I really appreciate having such a large audience on a Saturday morning. You are early risers, and I appreciate it. Look, I don't have any makeup, so I hope I did a decent job. Yeah, what can I tell you? Hard Rock Cafe, love all, serve all. Maybe it's that simple. Maybe it's that simple. So go vote on the survey question, which I've shared with you. I hope you'll be watching at 9 a.m. in the East. I am followed again by Big Bird. They had huge ratings. They blew me out of the water last weekend, so I knew Big Bird would be back. Did you hear me tell the story yesterday about how I had to fight with Barney when I was getting started in radio like 25 years ago? I'm not going to have to fight with Big Bird, though. I love having Big Bird follow me. It's good for me, good for Big Bird. Have a wonderful day. Circulate this with a friend. Vote on the website question. I know it's going to rack up huge numbers today. All right. See you, gang.